Hello everyone, and welcome to another review video. This time I am looking over another Thomas Friends Wood model. This is the Thomas Friends Wood Winston. This is the fully painted version of Winston that came out in 2019, not the 2018 version where there was exposed wood. And I actually got this at Target today, and something that I remember is that when the Thomas Wooden Railway line was in existence, they did used to have the Thomas Wooden Railway trains over at Target, but not so much at Walmart, which was unfortunate. So, anyway, I decided to get the Thomas Wood Winston over the Thomas Wooden Railway version because it does come with a Sir Topham Hatt figure inside. And, it's good to have the new Thomas Wood version of Sir Topham Hatt, as well as also being able to actually have him be removable from Winston, because I think that the original Thomas Wooden Railway Winston did have Sir Topham Hatt inside, but he was not removable. Whereas with the Thomas Wood Winston, you can actually remove the character, or remove Sir Topham Hatt from the car. This is kind of a new thing that was introduced with the Thomas Wood line, with having the characters be, any characters like road vehicles have, a person be put inside of them, having them, have this open cab. So there's that. And, on most of the Thomas Wood models, I personally don't find it to be all that good that they would have the cab just be open like this, and, making them look very hollow-like in this sort of form. But for Winston, it doesn't look so bad, because Winston is a character that has the open hood, so it does make perfectly good sense that he would have the open hood. But for characters such as Annie and Clarabelle and Bertie the Bus, doesn't make them look all that great. And as I've mentioned in my review on the Wooden Railway Bertie, I would recommend that they actually have some sort of coverage for the figure. Just put some sort of coverage over the figure, kind of sealing it away, so the vehicle still looks good with no open ends. But for Winston, that's not a problem right there. So, looking at this model of Winston, he is a bit on the long side in comparison to Bertie. Yeah, like he's supposed to be a much shorter character. In fact, I'm going to be getting Wooden Railway Charlie. Do a little comparison. Yeah, he's longer, alright. That's interesting. Did not think that he would be that longer compared to a Thomas Wooden Railway train. That's surprising. But regardless, it's still a pretty nice Thomas Wood model for the revamped line, as opposed to the original exposed wood line. And, having the character be removable certainly would make good sense for if you wanted to have someone else be driving Winston, like in the episode Happy Birthday, Sir, Winston was driven by another person besides Sir Topham Hatt. It was one of those drivers that was driving Winston in that episode, and I think that's probably the only episode to date where we've seen Winston be driven by somebody other than Sir Topham Hatt. But usually it's Sir Topham Hatt that we have driving Winston around. It's usually Sir Topham Hatt. We have not seen anyone else drive Winston other than that one time in Happy Birthday, Sir. And I know that some people may remember there was also an episode where, Wayward Winston, where Sir Topham Hatt forgot to set the brake on Winston which he always does, and Winston always reminds him. But then Winston decided not to remind Sir Topham Hatt, and he ended up just driving away without Sir Topham Hatt inside of him. He was like a runaway car, so to say. And, you know, Winston did like that at first, being able to move with no driver, but then he realized that it was not so great, because without a driver, he just could not stop. But fortunately, he ran out of gas right before he had a crash, and, you know, after that, he did realize that he did need a driver. And when Sir Topham Hatt was back in the driver's seat, he was very happy to have him there. Yeah, the thing here is that when Sir Topham Hatt is driving Winston, there's a tendency where Winston will just kind of jolt forward and back a little bit as he is going along, because Sir Topham Hatt doesn't really know how to drive Winston all that well, or something. Not quite sure what. You know, because Winston is a track inspection car. He is a car that runs on the tracks, not on the road like you would think. And, you know, when I first saw Winston, like when he was first announced as a character that was going to appear in Blue Mountain Mystery, as well as the 16th season, I thought he was going to be a car that could run on both the rails and the road, but no, he's a car that only runs on rails. So that's quite something. Although, for this model right here, if you want to have him be portrayed as a car on the road, you can do that. But officially, he's a rail inspection car. He goes only on the rails. So, that's pretty much all I have to say about the Thomas Wood Winston. And as for the Thomas Wood figure of Sir Topham Hatt, these figures are not made of wood, by the way. They're made out of some sort of plastic or hard rubber. I'm not quite sure what it is, but they're the new figures that have the legs that, you know, bend down. And I personally prefer these over the original Thomas Wooden Railway figures, because they're a little more size accurate to the trains. That's just my opinion, anyway. And thankfully, even with the exposed wood, we've not had any issues with the figures having any, you know, not being painted all the way. Since the whole paint thing was just if the character was mostly made of wood. But in this case, the figures are not made of wood. They're just designed to go inside of the vehicles themselves. So what do you think of the Thomas Wood Winston, and what do you think of the feature of having the figures go inside of these vehicles? Do you think that they should have some coverage over them, or do you think that they're fine the way they are? For me personally, I do think that they should add some coverage on top of the coaches and the road vehicles, but for Winston right here, it's just totally fine if he just has an open cab, because that's what he's supposed to have. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time.